Hi, everyone. We are shortly starting the second part of our webinar on the LLCs in Norway. The last one was held last week on Wednesday, and it is now available as a recording on our YouTube channel, which is, if you go to the YouTube channel and find Novum with the yellow logo, then you'll be able to see two parts webinars held in Polish by our owner Katarzyna Ramberg, and one part of the webinar that I held last week in English. We are having a light technical problem with the presentation, which should be presented by my colleague Lydia, who is an accountant in our company in Drammen. And since when I share my documents, they are very small and I would be afraid that you would not be able to see them. Lydia should be able to join us as a technical aid, but meanwhile I can cover the slide that is the first one that presents myself. And my name is Anna Kurpalska. I've been working for Novum Economy for the last 12 years. And I have worked as both consultant and key account manager, and the company specializes in foreign interpreters in Norway. Why? Well, this has been a need for not only Polish entrepreneurs, but also for companies from other countries, and the demand has been so great that several offices that specialize in several consultants specializing in Norwegian accounting have been able to develop themselves. That's why most of our clients are foreign companies, some of them registered as Norwegian registered foreign enterprises, but that would be a matter for a different seminar that should be presented some other time. Today we're going to concentrate on limited liability companies in Norway, and limited liability companies are called aksjeselskap. Have we got a lot of experience with limited liability companies in Norway? Yes, we can see the development in the way that a lot of sole proprietorship owners, a lot of companies develop into limited liability companies, and therefore not all of them speak English or Norwegian, and sometimes need a more thorough assistance from other companies. Kasia, if Lydia is not able to share the presentation, would you be so kind and do it? Kasia can't hear me. I have worked for 12 years. My background is mainly in languages. I've graduated from Norwegian philology at the University of Poznan in Bergen. And this I find very helpful in managing my accounts and talking to my clients, as the multicultural background gives you a lot of insight into what problems, what challenges foreigners in Norway might face. Now, when it comes to Novum as a company, Kasia Ramberg, who is my boss and my mentor, opened the company more than 22 years ago, and has been leading it together with her husband. They are both board members, and they are also working board members in the company. So they have been gathering the experience of running the company for many years. Novum is not a very big company. We are about 15 people situated in both Poland and Norway. In Poland, our main quarters is in Bydgoszcz, whereas in Norway, we are situated in Drammen, which is about an hour's drive from the two main airports in the Oslo vicinity, both Gardermoen and Torp. I'm sorry, I'll try to share the presentation with you. I'm terribly sorry about the, but first I'll mute Kasia. I'm terribly sorry for the...
Widzę, że teraz Ania próbuje sama.
Tak, Kasia, can you turn your microphone off? Thank you. I'm going to share the presentation with you. I'm terribly sorry for the technical problems. I am nearsighted, and my two screens don't allow me to share it properly. But we'll try to do that. We have to overcome the shortcomings we are faced with. I hope you can see something. Let me know if fine. If not, then we'll repeat the seminar or the webinar. So I've covered the two slides about me and the company that I work for. We are all working for Novum. We have been working for Novum for many years. We have a staff of dedicated accountants and consultants. In Poland, I am the oldest of the oldest, so I've been working for more than 12 years, but I have colleagues who have equal experience and speak as many languages as I do. So if you anytime find the need to talk to us about your experience as a company owner in Norway, you're more than welcome to contact us. When it comes to the agenda of today's meeting, we are going to cover shortly what we have covered last week, which was mainly the registration and the main problems regarding or related to the process of establishing the company. But we are also going to concentrate more on the structure of the company, the organization, each of the organs that is very important for the company, such as the General Assembly and the Board of Directors. I am going to concentrate mainly, and I'm going to stress this as much as possible, on the responsibility of the not just the owners, but also of the board members, as this is something that I find foreign entrepreneurs in Norway don't pay enough attention to. This is also a webinar that is dedicated to a more practical approach to LLCs in Norway, which means that we're going to talk a bit about the cases where the responsibilities of the board went awry, and when we're not going to cover the success stories, we're going to cover more of the failures, as we want you to be prepared for any scenarios in the country, which, as you may know and you may have experienced, poses quite a lot of challenges to entrepreneurs. If you have any questions on the way, there is a question section which I'm going to try to refer to during the meeting. If there are any other questions, please contact me directly. Look up our website, where we have an English blog where we also cover quite a few of subjects related to LLCs in Norway. And once you have registered, and we have tried this last week, you are going to receive the recording of the meeting in your mail, hopefully. Let's make an agreement. I'm going to send the presentation as well, as if you have just a tiny picture of the presentation, I will make sure that you'll get the proper one in your email. We're going to cover the roles, define the roles, as the title of the webinar is quite pompous, but I'll be honest with you, I used the artificial intelligence to come up with a proper title, but we're going to cover the roles defined, success desired, and we're going to navigate through the LLC structure in Norway. The LLC in Norway is called aksjeselskap, so basically it could be roughly translated to as share company, and that's what it is exactly. The main legal document that governs the activity of LLCs in Norway is called aksjeloven, and it is translated to English as Companies Act. The Companies Act is available in English. A lot of documents, legal documents in Norway are available for English speakers. There's a great portal called lovdata.no, and there you can find a lot of English translations of the main documents, of the most important ones. And I covered the legal act for the LLCs a bit more thoroughly last week, so I'm just going to mention that it is the crucial document, that it includes 21 chapters, and that I absolutely advise anyone who wishes to have an LLC in Norway to go through the act and to get familiarized with it, as well, without knowledge, you may be faced with challenges that you might not be unaware of, but everything that is crucial for LLCs is included in the Act. To be honest, this is something that we find again and again, and I will repeat it through the webinar, not enough knowledge by the foreign entrepreneurs who work as board members or managers, or who are owners of such companies in Norway. And that may cause quite a few challenges, if not troubles. Here we've got the essentials of the Companies Act. What should
Sorry,
be?
Anya, maybe I will
Yes.
help you with this presentation. I will try.
Okay.
Okay.
You can try. So I'm not going to share it anymore. Okay, can you try to share it, Kasia?
Yes, it's okay now or not?
I can't see it.
Just 1 second, please.
Yay!
And
It's
now?
there. I can see it.
Okay.
If you can see it, can anyone just wave their hand? Is there anyone listening to me? Ella is listening to me. Great. Thank you, Ella.
Okay, so we try.
Yes, Kasia, so you're going to be my humble assistant today. Kasia knows everything about running a company in Norway, so we are lucky to have such an assistant. And if you could please go, as I said, this slide shortly summarizes the main points of a Companies Act, but we'll go further. Kasia, please, could you change the slide? And we'll concentrate on the structure of the Norwegian LLC. As you can see here, we've tried to make a very simple chart of a company's main organs in the structure. Do we have a Norwegian here? I don't think so. I'm not sure if Gert has joined us, but as a someone who has studied Norwegian and the Norwegian culture, and I'm sure many of you will agree, Norwegian legislation and Norwegian Norwegian attitude towards official and formal matters is to make things simple as possible. And hence, the Companies Act is also quite simple. But of course, the owners of the companies and the persons working for the company can make amendments to each document that they present. The only thing that we need to remember is that anything that we change in our articles of association or in anything that we do in relation to our company is not in conflict with the Companies Act. The Companies Act gives us a simple structure that is known in other countries and other organizations, not just in Norway, but let us just shortly go through that. The main the main authority in the company and the most important organ of the LLC is owners, shareholders, which in Norwegian are eiere eller aksjonærer. This is the highest authority that runs the company through or by the means of board of directors, which is directly below the main the main authority. And the board of directors can choose, but as we're going to discuss it later, it's not obligatory, but there can be a general director or daglig leder chosen to run the company on a daily basis. Daglig leder can be translated to daily leader, daily manager. So we've got those three organs that are the most important ones. And now how can the shareholders exercise their authority? Well, they can do that through an obligatory general assembly or general meeting of the shareholders, which we're going to discuss a bit more thoroughly later. And then, of course, the board can meet more than one. The shareholders can also meet more often than just once a year. That's a minimal requirement, but the board of directors can meet and should meet, also have their meetings and have minutes of the meetings and reports, because the board of directors is responsible in front of or and is directly below the General Assembly and the shareholders. As we discussed last week, Kasia, can we move to the next slide, please? We discussed the role and the structure of shareholders in a Norwegian LLC. And as we said, there can be just one shareholder in a Norwegian LLC. So there can be a one-person shareholder who owns 100% of the share capital. And I'm just going to remind you that the share capital should be of minimum 30,000 crowns. That means that 100% of the 30,000 crowns belongs to one person. We can have more than one owner. We can have public persons, so companies, or private persons as the owners. The owners are the highest authority in the company, and the entire idea of having a company is that the owners should gain profit from the actions of the organization. That means that everyone who is below the owners should work for the profit of the shareholders. That's the main idea behind an LLC. And that's also something that is the right of the owners to get dividends from the company. The General Assembly decides on the division of the dividends and if it's at all profitable in the particular year to have dividends. But what is the responsibility of the shareholders? Because there are some responsibilities where the most important one is for them to bring in the share capital. As I said, of minimum 30,000 kroner, that is not a huge amount. Of course, like we mentioned last week, the amount of the share capital is dependent on your activities and on the size of the company. So this is the main obligation of the shareholders. Now, when it comes to responsibilities that lie on the shoulders of the shareholders, this is a definite advantage of an LLC in Norway, aksjeselskap, in comparison to sole proprietorship. In the sole proprietorship, just like in probably other countries like Finland, Portugal, or Poland, the owner and the company are one. So any liabilities that the sole proprietorship might have equal the liabilities of the owner. That means that if you have debts in a tax office, the tax office may as well come and get your private assets. Whereas if you're a shareholder in a limited liability company in Norway, the tax office will not come for your personal assets, but they will come to the board of directors. And that's what we're going to talk about soon. So if you're thinking about the liability of a shareholder or owner in an LLC and sole proprietorship, definitely LLC is a more advantageous form for a company, for running a company. Let us see now, Kasia, the next slide, which will cover the next body in a aksjeselskap, general meeting of shareholders. The shareholders can exercise their power through the general meeting, general assembly, or generalforsamling, and all companies, which is a stipulation of the Companies Act, have to have at least one general meeting annually. Of course, there can be more meetings. They are usually held 6 months, not later than 6 months after the end of the fiscal year, which is December. So usually the general assemblies take place around June, as the deadline for delivering tax assessment for the company is 31st of May. Usually by June, your accounting division or your accounting company will have the numbers ready for general assembly for the shareholders to see and to accept, because this is one of the tasks of the general assembly. One of the most important ones is to accept and sign the annual financial statement. So akkurat nå, right now, as we say in Norwegian, all our accountants have madness in their sight, and it's very difficult to approach them and talk about something other than annual statements and tax statements. This is an important period for all LLCs, both in Poland and in Norway. Please remember, we mentioned last week that a foreign company can be an owner in a Norwegian company, and then your Polish or Finnish or Portugal accountant will want to know what the result in your Norwegian company is. And sometimes the deadlines in those countries differ from the Norwegian deadlines. So we have clients from different countries where our accountants have to synchronize the works for the annual statement in Norway and make it a bit faster than perhaps for other Norwegian companies, regular Norwegian companies with no foreign capital. So this is something that one should remember while establishing a company in Norway and having a Polish or French company owning the shares. Let me go to the next slide, Kasia, please. Very shortly, a summary of what vedtekter or articles of association should include. Again, I will refer to the last week's webinar. We discussed in depth. Then here you've got just the essentials of what should be included in the Articles of Association. The important thing is that the General Assembly has the right to amend or add things to the Articles of Association. So, in other words, the shareholders have the right to make changes to the most important document that guides the activity of the LLC in Norway, and that's very important. Of course, if you have a one person shareholder structure, or two persons are shareholders, and then there is a two persons board or one person's board, then there is not a lot probably to be added to the Articles of Association, but we strive for companies that will employ more people and have more board members and will develop in such a matter. And then there might be a need to look closer at the Articles of Association, go through it and check it at times, because the conditions of running your company may have changed during the process. LLC is the most popular form of activity in Norway. Before the share capital was quite high, and when the government changed the minimum share capital into 30,000 kroner, the number of LLCs flourished. So this is probably, if you just want a simple form, that's the perfect form for activity for you. But then let's go further, Kasia, please, and let's see what are the catches in an LLC. Well, even if you have a one person shareholder structure, then the Articles of Association need to include who the composition of the board of directors, the managing director, which is optional. You don't have to have a manager director. Then we can have, because even a one person company may flourish in a dimension that we're not aware of at the beginning. And then we could include in the Articles of Association the refusal of first refusal of shares, which means that if you wish your children or your family members to be able to buy the shares before general public is able to buy the shares, then we can include it in the Articles of Association. Also, the articles will include the time and the means of General Assembly. What is now available is the online meeting possibility, which is, of course, makes things much easier. The Norwegian regulations have recently been changed in regards to the composition of board members, and the stipulations say that in companies there should be at least 50% of female board members employed or chosen. And thanks to that fact, we've got Kasia Ramberg, the owner and my humble assistant today, who has gone through several courses for board members, and she's now a certified board member. And we've included a lot of her experience plus her practical experience in this webinar. So we absolutely are for this quota of board members being females, and we hope that we're going to see more and more women in business, also foreign entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And what is very important, and what can be a catch for a board member in Norway, is that in the Articles of Association, we also include the right to representation, the right for someone to sign important documents, legal documents, on behalf of the company. And that is absolutely crucial. And that is something that a lot of people know about, but a lot of board members may make mistakes related to this point. So here, again, let's stress the fact that it is very important. If you're just a shareholder, you should also be aware that the main document for the company is Articles of Association, that you should check it with the Companies Act and see if everything checks out in the document. Let's move and see the next slide, Kasia, please. Now we come to the board of directors, which stood as so leading, guiding element in the organization. Actually, here you can see our board of directors, which is Gert and Kasia. And as you may have already remembered or memorized, the board can constitute of one person. Last week we covered also the possibility for non-EU members to become board members. The Companies Act has been recently altered so that it makes it easier for non-EU members to become board members in Norway. However, still 50% of the board members have to either live or either be citizens or live in an European Union country. That might be important if you wish to have a company, establish a company together with someone who is a non-EU citizen. What are the responsibilities of the board? Here you've got a general description of the responsibilities. Of course, the board is chosen by the General Assembly. In the smaller companies, you can have small boards consisting of 2 people, 3 people. The more complicated the activity of the company and the more employees we have, the more assets we have, the greater option, the greater need or requirement for a bigger board member there is. We should also remember that it is good to have someone who is, just like Kasia, a certified board member, or someone who knows about workings of the board and who knows about the liabilities and the dangers and the challenges, or who simply is an expert in the field of the organization. So definitely a board should consist of people who may be experts in the field, but people who take responsibility. We're going to talk about it again and again. I'm going to repeat. As a board member, you've got responsibilities in Norway, and as a board member, and there has been a rumor that actually it's been or an urban legend, a statement that is quite prolifically delivered by clients and by entrepreneurs, that only the board chairperson has the responsibility, financial responsibility over the financial actions of the company. But that's not true. All the members of the board in Norway are equally responsible for any wrongdoings or any wrong actions that the company might stand for. Another responsibility is compliance with the law. That's rather obvious. A very important responsibility that is also sometimes well, I know we've got experience with Polish companies, and in Poland it's not as important to keep equity and liquidity on a safe level. In Norway, it is very, very important that the company and the board can produce a proof that the company has enough assets and that the company can be run smoothly and with no risk of bankruptcy. So that is a very important responsibility. The board is also responsible for hiring or firing of a manager or the managing director. So this is another responsibility, and also the board is responsible for the communication with the people who run the daily basis. So sometimes one meeting of the board may not be enough to have the control and to have the actual knowledge about the daily operations of the company. And again, I will stress, the board members are responsible for the company's action. Let's go to the next slide smoothly, as you noticed I talk a lot and we still have some materials to cover, so I'll try to be as swift as possible. Here we've got 5 examples of the most common mistakes that the board of directors in Norway have made throughout recent years, and those are the examples that were given by Forsikringsselskapet, which is insurance companies, sorry, and the insurance companies have given examples of undesirable behavior of members of the board. What might they be? The first one given is the exceeding of the authority of the board member. That is a very formal problem or formal failure that that is if someone who has no right to sign a legal document or to represent the company actually does it or represents the company in front of the tax office or authorities. And you already know that then that can easily be checked in the Articles of Association, where we included who has the right to represent the company. So this is a silly mistake that can be easily avoided if you, as a board member, know the Articles of Association. Filing for bankruptcy too late. This is an experience that is very awkward for some of our foreign entrepreneurs, namely, we wait for the company loses a lot of money, we wait still because we know that our client is going to pay us a bit later, and we don't really want to go through the fuss of any formal proceedings with the tax office. So we wait and wait and wait, and then we can actually be surprised in a not very funny manner when a tax office actually announces bankruptcy of the company. So if the board doesn't react to loss of capital or to general loss in the company soon enough, if they don't announce bankruptcy in the right moment before it gets too late, then of course the debt of the company grows and the liabilities become larger and larger, and the worse it is for the outcome of or the bankruptcy of the company. Sometimes it's better to take a drastic step if we cannot pay in or make the share capital larger by lending the money to the company or borrowing the money from someone, or making a structured plan of repairs in the company. Then sometimes it is better to announce the bankruptcy rather sooner than later. A lack of proper supervision over the managing director. This very often happens when we have so-called companies or family companies, family-run companies, when we might appoint our cousin or father-in-law or brother to be a managing director, daglig leder, and then we sort of put a lot of trust into their activities without proper control. If the managing director fails or makes any mistakes that have impact on the financial situation of the company, then the board is responsible for not acting properly and in the right time. Approving contracts with persons associated with the company, that is the conflict of interest. If we have someone whom we like or trust, and we say, okay, well, you're a good carpenter, I will order your services, I'm not going to look any further in the market. And then we find out that this friend of ours charged us triple the amount that is a regular market price. Then the board of directors is also responsible for such a mistake, for such a failure. So then make sure, of course, if you are a huge company, it might be reasonable to have some experts on the board who will tell you, okay, we have to make an appraisal of those services because what this carpenter in particular is offering is much too high, and this might not be a good decision for our company. And The last mistake is related to the one that I have already covered. In case of any troubles or bankruptcy looming over the LLC, the auditor, who is also chosen by the General Assembly, by the way, the certified statutory auditor or revisor, or any other organs that have the right to look into your accounts will definitely do so and will look for contracts that might be fixed or that might not be favorable for the company. So the board members should generally have a good control over what is going on with the company. Next slide, please, Kasia. What can we do, what a board member can do to protect themselves from being liable for such mistakes or failures? When we, you can first and foremost, a board member can get insured in Norway. Of course, when you have a small company and when you're one of the two board members and you don't enter huge contracts with multiple suppliers and clients, then the insurance may not be necessary. But it is a possibility, and it is actually, it might be a wise thing to do. But in order to make sure that your actions are because it's not like that. I don't want to scare you, the potential board members in the Norwegian LLC. It's not as if thousands and thousands of board members inhabit Norwegian prisons because they have been judged and sentenced due to their malfeasance and general breaking the law. But and there is a way to become a board member and be a board member in a orderly and reasonable fashion. One just has to have everything that is formally required in order. And when we talk about formal requirements, we always think about documentation, because as a board member, you have the right and the obligation to prove your work. And well, this is not a post. Being a board member is rather a function than a post, but you can prove that you have been functioning properly as a board member by presenting authorities, insurance companies, and anyone else who is interested with proper documentation. Norway is a very transparent country, and everything is available to be checked. Even your correspondence as a company with authorities, a third person can easily order your correspondence with, for instance, the Labour Authority, and look into it actually. So in order to meet the transparency criteria, the board should make sure that the documentation is proper and orderly. And for the documentation, we will need an invitation to the board meeting. If there is a crisis, for instance, or if there is something going on, call the board meeting. Make sure that the meeting actually takes place. Don't go to making a false or fake board meetings. And then there are two crucial documents. One of them is the minutes, which is the summary of what was going on at the meeting, and very important document that has been translated as board meeting minutes, but it's a protocol, Styrets protocol. This is something that is signed by members of the board, and during this meeting and in the protocol, one can make special remarks, and one can prove that they have made actions in order to mend the critical situation in the company. First of all, you can ask during the invitation process, you can ask for, or during the meeting, you can ask for something to be included in the agenda if you're worried about suspicious acquisitions in the company. Second of all, you can you can ask for someone who is responsible, in your opinion, for the crisis to make a detailed summary, a detailed description of the situation. Then you can also make sure that if you have an opinion that differs from the opinion of other board members, you can make sure that it is distinctly underlined in the report. And also you can resort to a very drastic step, which is resigning from the position of a board member. Remember that that a board chairperson has the double right to vote. So, but also, again, I have already mentioned it. If not, then I'm going to stress it even more. Each and every board member is equally responsible for the failings of the company, including financial failings. Next slide, please. If you're not asleep, Kasia, no. The board members can choose a managing director, knowlede, someone who is responsible for running the company on a daily basis. This is a central position, and knowlede is a post, not a function. So he gets, whereas board members can receive styrehonorar, which is honorarium, so remuneration, that is not actually a salary, but a general director, the knowlede, the managing director, is actually hired, employed in the company. The company can choose not, the board can choose, or the General Assembly can choose not to have a manager, general manager, and then the chairperson of the board takes this role upon themselves. The board has the duty to continuously check the work and have an ongoing communication with the board, with the general manager, and the general manager has a duty to report to the board. Of course, there can be differences in the opinions of the general manager and the board, and such conflicts may result in difficulties and challenges for the company. But that's a very central role, not a position, but not a function, but a post, an employee of the company. And we can choose not to have a managing director in a small company, for instance. Also, we can have the board chairperson running the daily business in smaller companies. It depends on the activity that your company is going to take upon itself. Let's move further, Kasia, please. And here we're coming to the conflict between the general manager and the board of directors. Some of you may be familiar with the gentleman, and the name behind him, Oda, is the formerly known as Colonial. That's a company that grew really fast and developed into a great and huge company in Norway. And the idea is quite simple and now very common, but a few years ago it was a hit and a revolution in not only in Norway but in other countries. Well, shortly speaking, Oda is responsible for delivering goods from local shops to your home in a small vehicle. And the company has turned into a great success. Carl Munthe-Kaas was the founder, and he had the idea behind the company. And then not long ago, he decided that it's time to grow even more and to develop, and he made a decision to invest in Finland. I'm not sure if our Artu has heard of them, our Finnish guest, but they also made some investments in Germany, and it flopped enormously, and it was a huge disaster for the company, and they've lost a lot of money financially. So this article that is actually quite recent, just a few weeks ago, a lot of Norwegian newspapers have covered the fact that Mr. Kås is no longer the CEO or the concern chef, which is the boss of the holding, but he is now being degraded, and he's just a board member. And he said that he has lost, this was his decision to make investments, and he takes it upon himself to be responsible for it. And now someone else is basically running his business. So that's, of course, an example of a huge company that made a mistake of wrong investments. And if we could go to the next slide, Kasia, please, we'll see the articles from a local newspaper in Drammen, which give you examples, quite shocking ones. But as you can see, that does happen, that the company was actually went bankrupt in a very in a very ornery and unpleasant way. The first article, jakter 1,7 miljarder I gatechecken konkurs. The authorities are looking for almost 2 billion kroner in a company that ran a hot dog joint or a street venue, a food venue, and that was due to irresponsible decisions of the board members. Whereas the middle article talks about the chairperson of the board who has paid themselves a lot of money, millions of kroner, and of course not being able to cover other liabilities of the company. He is now being sentenced for his decisions and for fraud, basically. But of course, I'm not sure. I don't remember if there were other board members. If that was the case, then they will also be held responsible for the fraud. And the third one, which looks like Nordic noir film on the streaming platform, but I haven't actually, well, sort of a succession scenario, maybe. Someone went into such means of bankrupting their company that the police have been also involved in the case. So as you can see, the board members have the responsibility before or in front of authorities, and not only board members, but managing director, basically all the people that the shareholders have chosen to run their company for them have responsibilities in Norway. Let's go to the next slide, please. Well, since Novum is an authorized accounting, I will tell you 3 sentences about how to run your books in Norway. You can have someone being employed for your company and bookkeeping for you, and do bookkeeping for you. But and there are no legal requirements for such a person. But you can also employ an external company, outside company to run your books for you. And then there is a legal requirement for such a company to be registered in the Financial Authority of Norway, Finanstilsynet. Such a company like ours needs to have authorized accounting personnel, staff that will take responsibility, again, a very popular word in our webinar, that will take responsibility for the other accounts actions. So if you're looking for an outside source of accounting for your company, definitely look for an authorized accounting office. And coming to the end of our presentation, next slide, Kasia, please. We have a short summary and perhaps something that might be an incentive for you to ask more questions. Perhaps you'll have proposals for another webinar with other subjects that might be included here. Let's just remind ourselves a few facts. The minimal capital, share capital for an LLC in Norway is, if you can show us, yes, is 30,000 kroner. That's minimal. If you wish to know more about share capital, please go to the YouTube channel of Novum and check the last week's webinar. Minimum number of board members in a limited liability company, that's not very difficult. That is at least one board member. Again, it's up to the shareholders to make a decision how many board members there will be. What is the percentage of parent company shares required to designate a new company in a subsidiary position? That is when we talk about a holding, which is a very good solution. If you're interested, please let us know. We'll tell you more about it. The holding, the mother company, needs to have at least 50.01% of shares in the daughter company. That's quite a useful information. Board members' participation required for meeting quorum. No, something changed in the presentation, sorry about that. We need to have more than half board members in order to have a quorum for a board meeting. So if you have one person in the board, you will need to cut them in half at least. Accounting joke. And then let's go to number 5, the highest authority in the company, and that should be quite clear by now. That is the general meeting, general assembly. Basically, shareholders are the highest authority in the company. Who chooses the company's auditor? So someone who earns much more than accountant, but it's necessary in companies who have the turnover of more than 7 million kroner. And again, the shareholders need to sign off on the decision who the statutory auditor will be. What about a deadline for registration of the company in the business register, Brønnøysundregistrene? Now, we talked about it last week. Oh, that is a surprising turn of events in our presentation. We need to have at least 3 months is the deadline, which means that if you try to establish a bank account in a Norwegian bank, which may take up to even 6 months. And once you have established the bank account where you put in the share capital, you might want to go back to the articles of incorporation and make a new set of documents. What is the frequency of reporting by the managing director to the board? And this is a very important matter which the board should be aware of, or board members, at least once every 4 months. Again, it depends on the activity of the company. If you have a lot of going on and you should have reports as a board member, you feel that you should have more reports than just one every 4 months, it can be more, but at least each 4th month, there should be a report from the managing director. What is the requirement? Is there a requirement for the number of managing director? No, the managing director is not required to be employed in a company. It is also possible to have more than just one general manager, but the company can choose not to have one. What is the body that employs the general manager? I hope you already know that the responsibility lies with the board of directors. And who are eligible participants in the general assembly or general meeting? Do we have the answer to that? We might or we might not. The excitement. Of course, it's all shareholders. Thank you so much for last slide is just a thank you note. I hope this short summary incited you to ask more questions about limited liability companies in Norway. I hope you will want to hear more about different forms of activity in Norway. Extremely sorry for the initial technical problems, but I hope that all in all, the effect of the webinar was quite positive. And in case of any other questions, please make sure that you contact us in Novum, and we'll be able to help you with any questions regarding limited liability companies, Norwegian registered foreign businesses, sole proprietorships, and matters related to consulting and legal actions in Norway as well. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and you will receive this webinar in your email later on this, probably tomorrow. Thank you so much again, and I hope to see you later. Bye.